Hi, I'm Joanna, and 10 years ago, almost to the day, I completed the requirements to become an occupational therapist in my state. During the time that I've been in OT, I have worked in multiple practice settings across the spectrum, across the continuum of care, as they call it. So the question today is, should you become an occupational therapist? Well, as most things in life, it's very nuanced and it depends. But what I can do is share with you the 5 things that I wish I had known before starting occupational therapy school. Number 1, and this should perhaps be very obvious, but when you become an occupational therapist, it is a career that trades time for money. To be fair, 90% or more of jobs trade time for money, but occupational therapy is no exception. You do make a decent amount of money for your time. However, if you're not working, unless you've figured out some creative income strategies, you're not getting paid. Now, this can be a benefit and a drawback. The benefit is that if you're having kind of a day where your brain just is not there, 9 times out of 10, you can still show up, you can still do your job well because you have the training and you have the experience, but you don't have to come at it with 200% to be successful. You can still show up, you can still be an OT, you can still bill for your time. The drawback, of course, is that if you're not working, you're not getting paid. Number 2, it can be a really stressful job, although this depends largely on where you work, the setting, and who you work with. When I decided to pursue occupational therapy as a career, it was actually listed as one of the best jobs in America at the time, and it was particularly listed as being a low-stress job. Compared to some other careers, I can see how a case could be made for that. However, if you're in the wrong setting, you're working with the wrong people, it can still bring its share of stress. To be fair, actual provision of occupational therapy services to a client has rarely been stressful in my experience. By and large, the stress doesn't actually come from the tasks that you learn to be an OT, but more so from the system that you're working within, the healthcare system, and all the things that go along with that. Unfortunately, as a provider who cares about your patients, you can sometimes be caught in the middle between seeking the bottom line and trying to provide the best possible care. Unreasonable expectations are also very common in a lot of practice settings, which is unfortunate. Anywhere that has 100% productivity standards is a recipe for stress because you can't ethically achieve 100% productivity. Scheduling can be very stressful depending on what setting you're in. Providing concurrent treatment can be challenging until you really get the hang of it if you're trying to see more than one patient at a time. And as with any job, sometimes personalities in the workplace can be challenging. Not unique to occupational therapy. Number 3, probably the ickiest thing that I did not realize going into occupational therapy, or that I didn't quite put together, is that the people to whom you are providing services, that you build a relationship with, are not the people that are paying you most of the time. 9 times out of 10, third-party payers are responsible for payment, and third-party payers are concerned about profit for third-party payers. They're not 100% concerned about well-being for your patients. And that's actually where a lot of the tension, a lot of the stress comes in, because you will sometimes have to fight to get your patients what you know is best for them. Number 4, one of the coolest things about occupational therapy is that you can have multiple careers within your career, because just like nursing, it can look so different depending on what setting you're in and what type of clients you're working with. If you find yourself in a rut, if you find yourself really not enjoying being an OT, you can make a change. You can still be an OT, you can still take all of your clinical skills and academic knowledge and apply it as an occupational therapist, but change settings. You can switch from being in a hospital to making your own schedule and doing home health. You can switch from doing geriatrics to working with premature babies. There are just so many options. There's always a way to switch up your career without having to go completely back to the drawing board, and that is a major bonus. Number 5. I went back to school in my late 20s, so I had multiple jobs in between graduating with my undergraduate degree and becoming an occupational therapist. And I can tell you without question, being an occupational therapist is the most rewarding job I have ever had. By the very nature of occupational therapy, you're getting down in the mud with people, working on the skills that are most important to them and who they are as people. And the relationships you build with people while you're developing those skills are just invaluable. There aren't too many professions where you will have clients come back to you and tell you that you've changed their life, and occupational therapy is one of them. When we were in school, we had a lot of guest lecturers who had various disabilities, and all of them thanked us as a class for sitting where we were and deciding to go into the field that we were going into. But I still didn't really realize until I got out in the world, treating patients, meeting them where the rubber met the road in their lives, just how much of a difference you can make in someone's life as an OT. So what do you think? Is occupational therapy the right career for you? Well, only you can make that call, but feel free to let me know in the comments.